Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I see one familiar face already, so that's exciting.
Hi, James. How are ya?
Good, Helen. How about you?
Doing well.
Good. So will I be able to share my screen? Will I be can you make me a co-host to be able to do that? Or were you planning to?
You
I
should
think
be
I
able
only
to share
sent
your
you a
screen from here.
PDF, so I'd like to be able to run it from my side if I can.
Yes, you should be able to share your screen from here.
Okay.
We'll give folks a few minutes and we'll turn it over to you, James.
Sure.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
All right. Are you able to see my screen?
We are.
Okay, great. Also, make sure that you're able to see the videos when it's time to do that also. So are you able to see that YouTube video?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And you're able to see this when I flips through. Do you see annual report or supporting our communities?
Supporting our communities during extraordinary times. Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Well, good. It seems like everything is so far so good.
Joining. Give it about 2 minutes. Is that all right with you, James?
Of course. Yeah,
So we got a few people still tuning in, so. get
sure.
started.
And
Sure.
while we're waiting for them to, one more thing I'd like to also do is I want to make sure, are you able to see this whiteboard okay?
Yes, sir.
Drawing,
Doing some squiggles. Yep.
yeah, okay. All right, very good. All right. So.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm Colin Davis. I'm the manager of the homeless system with the City of Durham Community Development Department, and want to welcome you all to our effective case management series. And today we've got James Osborne with us from Alliance Health to talk about self-care. And I am the epitome of terrible at self-care, so please do not do anything that I do. I would follow James's advice much better than my own self-care routine. So James, thank you very much for joining us and for helping us to be able to take care of ourselves during very difficult times and stressful times. And even when things aren't as hectic with COVID, the work we do is difficult even on the best of days. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and tips and tricks of the trade to help us be more efficient, taking care of ourselves and being able to be better assistance to those we serve. So with that, I turn it over to you, James.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate that. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate Lloyd contacting me and coordinating the opportunity for me to be here. My name is James Osborne. I am a psychologist and a licensed clinical addiction specialist. I work as the Director of Community Health and Education for Alliance Health. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And there's several people on the call that I know already. For example, Manuel Hyman is also part of my team and part of the housing team at Alliance. So excited to see him. And of course, Helen Tripp has been a long time part of the CIT leadership crisis intervention team training, also a fellow mental health first aid trainer, and her qualifications go on and on. So it's great to see some familiar faces in the room. So also part of self-care is using some humor. So I was, they didn't tell me that this was not an ugly Christmas sweater holiday contest. And so I wore my ugly holiday sweater thinking that I might win. And so I am a present. So that is a one way of coping, is to try to find humor and make things fun. This is a very special presentation for me on many accounts. One is I haven't partnered with the city of Durham in a while. Number two, this will be probably my last presentation and opportunity for conversation in 2021. So I want to go out with a bang and make this the biggest and the best as we move through these slides. So again, I hope that you will have fun with the presentation and make this as interactive as possible. Again, looks like there's about 30 people on this Zoom today. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Make sure, are you able to see my screen here? And let me also just stop for a moment here. Let me try one more time. Yeah. Okay, you're able to see my screen okay? I see heads nodding. Okay, good. That's helpful. So we're going to talk about self-care, and especially as we are here in the holiday season. Some people get a natural high from the winter holidays. It's about faith and family and food, and there's a lot to enjoy. But other people find December to be a very challenging time because of all the expectations, financial, and family and food, all of those things. And so this all adds additional pressure, and that can make things tough. It's very easy to feel excluded during a commercial holiday when everyone is showing off their beautiful families and their gifts and whatever you see on Facebook, or that we don't even send the holiday cards anymore. There's holiday pictures. And so this can increase people's feelings of loneliness around the holidays. And again, there can be many changes to your regular daily routine, which also adds additional stress. So we're going to, again, talk about how to have compassion for yourself, and the differences between compassion fatigue versus burnout, along with impacts of trauma, because COVID is a traumatic time. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and how this can create empathic strain on each of us. We can only give so much. SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, has a wonderful handout. And again, I've provided this in a PDF form to the coordinator, so they should be able to send this out to everyone, and you'll have all of the notes and the slides of what I am presenting today. So more than happy to share as part of Alliance and our collaboration with our community. But they provide a lot of good information around this topic, around how behavioral health, mental health, substance use is, and addressing those issues is essential to your whole health, how prevention works, how treatment is effective, how people recover, and again, what we're going to talk about today related to self-care. So who is Alliance? I think that you know us, but just want to make sure that we are your local management entity and a managed care organization. So we're managing individuals that have Medicaid using federal dollars, and right now we oversee the behavioral health, mental health, substance use, and intellectual developmental disabilities. As of December 1st, we are very excited about adding 2 more counties to our catchment area, which included Orange and Mecklenburg. This was a huge expansion for us that is part of changes within Cardinal Innovations and all of their counties going out to other local management entities, managed care organizations. We're directly connected to Durham because Durham County gives Alliance money to invest back into those behavioral health services for our county, which of course impacts the city. And then we also are managing those state dollars for individuals that are uninsured. So we're serving over 500,000, over 500,000 Medicaid eligible individuals in a population area that's over 2 million individuals in each of those counties. And Durham is one of those. I want to encourage you to, you can actually take your phone now and take a picture of the screen, and this will bring up this annual report. And so I want to encourage you to kind of check that out. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute on this and go back to actually showing you where that is on the website, which is here. And I'm going to need to minimize this. Yeah, so this is our main website here, but then if you go over here, this is the annual report. I want to highlight that for you because as you kind of scroll down, you can download the whole report, but want to let you know specific to your area here, there's a whole section here about housing. Manual can tell you more about how housing is a therapeutic intervention, as you know, how Alliance has a housing plan, how we want to be integrated within what you do. And you can also see how this is also related to what you do as far as care management. So we have a huge amount of overlap, and we want to be part of this recovery-oriented system of care where our systems are working together. People are falling through the cracks because they're having to navigate systems, and us working together can have a collective impact. So I want to share that with you so that you'll be able to access more information about Alliance. Okay, you're able to see the annual report screen now? Yeah, okay. Thank you for nodding. I see, is it Michelin? Nodding for me. Thank you. You're very helpful. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep watching your head nod as we kind of go through this. So want to let you always know that help is available through the Alliance number. You can call this number at any time if you want to get a licensed clinician on the phone, and especially as you're interacting with individuals and it starts moving into more of a clinical area or it's moved into a crisis. This is always available for individuals 24/7, and you can talk to somebody locally. Alliance Health, along with all the other LME MCOs, local management entity managed care organizations in North Carolina, are part of Hope for NC, and this is part of a FEMA-based grant. This also emphasizes how we are currently still in a natural disaster. And this natural disaster called COVID is impacting everyone in a different way. And this has been going on, as you know, since March of 2020. And so Hope is available as far as a support line. Many of us have been impacted in various ways and had a significant loss. For example, today, we're losing the opportunity to meet face-to-face because of COVID. Some of these things we've kind of gotten like it's the new normal, or we're kind of gotten used to it, but we're missing out. And people have lost their lives, they've lost their livelihood. There's been a variety of ways that people have been impacted, and we want to make people know that hope is available. Hope is the key word around our self-care, which is also connected to recovery and issues of resiliency. And you also may be providing, direct services and counseling and support to individuals impacted by COVID. And so you are part of this healthcare worker. You're part of that support network, helping individuals that are impacted more directly maybe by COVID. And again, it of course impacts their housing. So this line is for you. It's also set up through the North Carolina Psychological Foundation. So again, knowledge is power. How you use the information is even more powerful. And these are resources that are available to you and the people that you serve. How does this all connect back to self-care? Because this is an acronym and 5 different strategies that you can use every day. I do them every day, and ways in which we can take a scoop around kind of managing stress. Number 1 is, how do we stay connected? How do we have emotional closeness while having physical distance? And looking at these types of social connections and meaningful connections can build that resiliency, which is, again, that positive kinds of buffers between us and that which is causing us stress. I am way too hard on myself. And so I need to have more compassion for myself and give myself a break, knowing that we're each doing the best we can in our current situation. We want to observe our use of substances, and we also want to be able to ask for help. There's a lot of stigma around mental health and even asking for help. And many of us, again, as kind of health, as human service providers, we're very good at giving help, but not always very good at receiving it or asking for it. And that's really, hopefully, something, a skill that you can add to your toolbox today. And along with getting outside, doing some type of physical activity, whatever works for you. If it's taking a walk, as Michelle Obama said, it's just about moving. Some type of physical activity today and every day is part of that scoop. So I want to give you a healthy kind of helpful acronym called SCOOP that is part of Hope for NC. Okay, so icebreakers will want to be able to see the chat over here. And so your icebreaker, if you will use the chat and type in your answer there. First question, if you had unlimited money and time, what would you do? Travel. I can definitely appreciate that, and something that we definitely have lost over time with COVID, impacted by that. Manuel would sleep and eat. I would travel and I would shop like crazy. I would sleep, I would shop, I would homeschool and travel. I would drive to the water, travel, relax, enjoy. Excellent. Invest. I like that, investing. Travel the world and open up a children's home. That's wonderful. Very good. A lot of sleeping, a lot of eating, a lot of traveling, and a lot of social good, and going to the beach and donate and buy a house, homestead. Okay, excellent. All right, good job. And thank you for using the chat, helping friends and family and enjoying my life. Absolutely. Sleep, travel, watch Hallmark movies. My mother watches a Christmas Hallmark movie every day. She is retired, but she does have lots of time. And so that's definitely what she does too, and pay off all those student loans. Absolutely. Next question for the icebreaker would be, what is your #1 pet peeve? What presses your hot buttons? What stresses you out more than anything? Because that is one way in which we want to apply some coping skills today. Wasted time. Excellent. Ignorance, rude people. Not resolving issues. Yeah, definitely always something on that to-do list. The second would be the rude people. Inconsistency. Disrespect. Disrespect has come up twice, 3 times. Lying. Aggressive and non-compliant clients. Lying. Impatience. Disrespect. Fake people. Love that. All right, very good. Thank you so much. People that listen to reply, not listen to hear. Absolutely. So I'm not just, as Lydia, Ms. Thomas is saying, again, I'm not just waiting for my time to talk. I'm truly listening, and people have a story to hear, to tell, and I'm here to really hear them, not just to actively kind of listen. Disrespect, hateful people, lack of common sense, inconsistent, and condescending people. Excellent. Thank you for that. All right, so here's our learning agreement. These are some things I hope that we can agree to as we move forward through the training today. One is to challenge yourself by choice. So you can shout out, you can unmute, you can turn the camera on or off, use the chat, jump into the conversation at any point. I have provided more than enough slides for today, so we definitely will not get through all of them. So I just have provided as much material as we would need, again, for the next hour and a half. I'm not really planning to take a break. So you take a break as needed. That's part of your, down there on the right-hand side, that's part of your self-care. So it's okay to step away and take a break as needed, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed or it's too much.
James, I'm sorry. Can I say something, please? I won't be able to stay towards the for the whole seminar, as I have to leave at 11 a.m. I have an intake that I really couldn't reschedule.
Oh, yeah, no worries. And I'm grateful for any amount of time that you can spend with us today.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. No judgment is really an important piece to have also in any kind of a training, so that we create a safe place. And so what I share with you in the training is not confidential. I hope that you will share my stories and share my information. If other people share information about themselves, and we want to, what's said here stays here. We want to, again, create a safe environment. And if people also feel triggered by anything that's going on today, please reach out to me, to your supervisor, your EAP program, and others. And I hope we have fun. That's why I wore the sweater for the day, special occasion. Okay, so also kind of going back to the chat here. Dream big, set goals, take some action. So pulling down the chat over here. The session is being recorded. Also, Ruby's letting us know it's being recorded, which is great. So here's your other, so you know also that whatever you shared is also is being put into the archive and will be posted out there under trainings. Good to know. So next question for your chat is,
Thumbs up. So, okay, I will let her know.
all right. So
Okay.
this would be, what would you like to get out of today's training? More than anything, I hope we can address what. So what is it that you would like to get out of today's training? I want to make sure that we include that as we're going through the material today. Anything in the chat? Any kind of shout out? Okay, here's one from Pamela. Thank you. Coping skills on stress management, how to deal with difficult people. Very good. Anything else there? Oh, excellent. Coping skills that assist with de-escalation. How not to take the job home every day. Absolutely. Boundaries are so important. I have some slides around that. How to avoid compassion fatigue. I have several tools around that. Boundaries, especially with angry individuals. Life-work balance. Yes. All right. Very good. Well, we're right on target. I've got good information on all of those. So we'll definitely be able to address that. So we're going to talk about some self-care tips. We're going to talk about how compassion fatigue is different from burnout. We're going to be able to identify some of those life stressors, also how to build resiliency, which is part of the recovery model, and how to have some boundaries that also allows us to create balance in our lives. So self-care is not selfish. So I want to put that out there at the very beginning, because many times what are the thoughts that we have about a topic around self-care, sometimes what those can create barriers. So I want to look at some of the thoughts that you might have that might get in the way of your self-care. And one of those thoughts is that I'm being selfish. or that I need to take care of others, or that somehow I don't deserve it, or that I don't have any time. Whatever it is that you might tell yourself, that kind of self-talk that is impacting your ability to have compassion for yourself. Again, it may take some practice to really carve out that time to take care of you. So why is this self-care topic so important? Because we can't give what we don't have. You can't pour from an empty glass. If you're unable, you can't meet the needs of others until we take care of ourselves. So this is this is an inside out job. And I kind of really like the picture, if you will. You kind of look at how this person is offering a piece of themselves to fit into the piece of the other person that is missing. Again, we don't want to be falling apart or coming apart or falling to pieces. And so we want to be able to look at ways in which we can keep ourselves as a whole self as we move forward. And this is part of loving yourself. And that's what self-care is about. It's about your physical, it's about your emotional, which is coming from your heart. It's about the relationships between us, and it's your spiritual health and time of stress. So we'll look at your whole person and ways in which that self-care can happen in all parts of you. So the meaning of self-care is that it's all about you. In some ways, some people feel like, oh, it's not all about me. And sometimes it's not all about you, but there's, again, that way in which we can establish this balance, because you have limits and we need to have rest and we need to be able to decompensate. We have to make changes when necessary, especially during COVID and during this time of very fluid process. And sometimes we have forgotten as adults, what is fun? What do I do for fun? And how often do I do that? And how do I balance out things that I want to do with things that I should do? The wants versus the shoulds. And so that's part of establishing self-care. And it's a delicate balance, right? And part of having this balance is balancing this work life with this leisure life. And now we're working from home. And so it's very easy then to have my lives or parts of myself kind of blended together. So how do I establish those kinds of boundaries, especially as around you're planning your breaks or your lunches, or setting aside personal time versus work time. And this is, again, part of establishing some of the principles around self-care. So it was 7 in this article that was talking about ethical practices of self-care. They came up with 7 ways in which we need to strategies that you might use. One is just to acknowledge that personal burnout can also lead to professional impairment. In other words, you only can bring what you bring to work, and you want to bring your best self to work. And people who are not their best selves or are not fully charged have increased likelihood of having their work impaired. And it's called presenteeism. Some people have absenteeism, right, where you're not even there. Presenteeism when people show up, but they're not really fully present. It's almost like they're texting on their phone while they're talking to you. It's like they're not fully there. They're distracted by something external or internal within themselves. Number 2, coming back to the basics. You know, I'm just a man sitting with a holiday sweater, talking to my computer with 30 people in front of me. Just basics, just how do we just kind of do, sleep, work, rest, and just kind of keep it simple, which is a kind of a theme of Alcoholics Anonymous, is just keeping it simple. Sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be. Being proactive. So how do we get ahead of it? How do we move things upstream? How do we establish some work boundaries? And what are those boundaries for you? And again, it's very individualized and specific to each person. How do I seek out support? How do I embrace flexibility? And again, how do I practice my compassion? So this is part of why we're trying to, again, establish some of these the balance, again, between work and life. But you bring your life, you bring your personality, you bring who you are to work. And again, we're looking at this way in which we can have this perfect blend or recipe of all the parts of yourself. And part of that involves your personal commitments with your professional commitments and family commitments and your physical, mental, spiritual, financial health. It also means bringing your true and authentic self to work and knowing that we all have vulnerabilities. We want to keep it real. That was one of the things that was a hot button. I really appreciated that one about fake people. I mean, you be you, right? And you be your best self. And that's usually brings more satisfaction to the individual and also more brings in these connections because it really is about relationships. And it also, but part of that is also making sure that you are self-aware. I brought in this slide because I think it's pretty, and also because it's part of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was first published back in 1989. It's the self-help book by Stephen R. Covey and has sold millions of copies. And this kind of brings in the ideas of habits because habits are kind of who we are. And if you're looking to improve your coping and your way, verbal de-escalation and your bringing in more skills, this is the habits is what you do. So habit number one is that you are the creator. You are in charge, right? You are living within your body and you get to decide what you want to do. Habit number 2 is that first, mental creation is based on imagination and the ability to envision what you can become. So that is another ways in which we establish these habits. And the third is this physical creation. So putting first things first means organizing and executing around the most important priorities. It's living and being driven by your principles and your values. Not some other agenda, not some other force outside of yourself, but within you. So part of the skill area, and again, I'm going to use the chat around this again. So the question for you would be around this skill area and the how, which is also your practical part of yourself, is part of self-recognition. And so the question is, when am I stressed? When are you stressed? What happens when you are stressed? So first of all, it's just that self-awareness or that recognizing that. So using your chat again, if you can answer that question, when am I stressed? Unexpected changes, absolutely. So many of us like to have we're creatures of habit. We like to have an idea of what's going to happen in our day. We like to have a schedule, but we're going to have things that pop up. Anything else? Oh, when I'm tired. Yes, absolutely. So if we're not, again, that's part of that self-care and getting sleep. And so tired, especially as it's a Friday and you've been working all week, how much is left in that battery for today when things are not planned for it? When there's more things put on our plate is already full and now we have a heavier workload. When I feel that I'm being taken advantage of, yes. So some of us, again, maybe, and I've been guilty or I've done this in the past that I excessively caregive or I give too much and then feel like I'm being taken advantage of and having it hard to set those boundaries when I'm feeling overworked, taking on too many responsibilities, overworked. Excellent. Good. So the other part of that's like recognizing what's going on. Step number 2 is around self-awareness. So what helps me when these things happen? What helps me to deal with that? Taking a nap. It's okay to take a nap. We need to have rest and we need to be able to set priorities. We cannot do it all. So you have your list and absolutely, I think that's a wonderful strategy or skill I try to use every day, which is prioritize. It's amazing. Once you've set that priority, then other things can drop off. Taking a deep breath, having perspective, prayer, just say no, alone time, effective case management, taking time off from work, analyzing the situation, praying, shopping, planning some days off. So these are all strategies that are in your wellness toolbox. And we want to have this toolbox be pretty deep and wide, have lots of things there, debriefing with colleagues to be able to ask for help, create a list. Again, there's just several different strategies. Delegating is always, that's asking for help, right? So that's part of the scoop that I've already mentioned with the O. It's okay to ask for help. Asking for help is delegating and acknowledging that I need help. I can't do it all, and that I'm human. Absolutely. The other questions that I'll have you consider, for sake of time, I'll move on, would be around self-regulation, which is how, and if you just think about this, how do I turn it down? Again, if the volume and the intensity is turned too far up, how do I turn that down? And the fourth question around self-control is, how do I know when I'm okay? What does that look like? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's in my body? What kind of behaviors do I have? Those are all the ways in which we might manifest when we are doing okay. So thank you for your chat and adding to the conversation. Very helpful. So I also love this one because this is also around these kinds of boundaries. And so on the left side is looking at things that are important and not important. And then up at the top, going across things that are urgent and not urgent. We spend our time in about 4 different ways, depending on 2 factors that define the activity: urgent and important. Urgent means that it requires immediate attention. The phone is ringing, that would be urgent. Importance, on the other hand, has to do with results. So it contributes to our mission, your own personal mission. I encourage you to have your own personal mission, values, and priorities. And again, your department in the city also has the same. We react to urgent matters, important matters that are not urgent require more initiative and more productivity. And so this is kind of a time management type of strategy that you can use. And again, kind of focusing up here on the that section, quadrant number 2 up here. This is the heart of effective personal management. It deals with things that are not urgent, but they are important. Things that we need to do, but somehow seldom get around to doing because they aren't urgent, but they're also very important. And so I put, for example, I'll go to the bottom of the list, recreation, which I'll also put in there as exercise, or the P, physical activity. That is really important. It's not, and I kind of might move it over to urgent, but it's not urgent because it's not pressing. It's not a crisis. It's not an emergency. It was mentioned in the chat, you know, kind of last minute things, unexpected things popping up, unforeseen events. That gets into your important and urgent, and that takes you out of or away from the things that are not urgent. And then many times, again, if we get dropping down at that bottom last quadrant, that really can create a lot of waste of our time. But those things are still can be important. And some things just get distracted. And those are kind of those routine things. So I thought that was a helpful way of kind of looking at, because time pressure is definitely something that impacts on our self-care. So what do you do for self-care? These are items that many of you have already mentioned when I've talked about ways in which you manage, but I want to throw out some additional ideas here of ways in which you, what you can do for self-care. And again, we want to look at what are some of the time management issues that might get in the way, for example, of taking a walk or biking or reading. These are all things that we like to do. And some things, like for me, cooking is not self-care. Cooking is like required. something that I have to do because I need to eat. So again, these are very individualized for each person. This is kind of a reminder, Bo, of 5 things that have been found to be really important when it comes to kind of self-care. Social support has an overall impact of wellness, how well we are. Your physical health can depend on your social network. We know for older adults, for example, having a narrator or someone to go with people to appointments can create a huge amount of social support, and that has a huge outcome on their health. Same thing might happen in housing if somebody was going through the searching for a home or applying for a loan or any step of that process. Having somebody support them, such as you as a care manager, has a huge impact on their self-care and their overall well-being. We also want to be very task focused in our kind of behaviors. That's part of in that time management, that quadrant B of doing things that are urgent, but also important. Emotional distance, that was kind of put in the chat too about how people manage by kind of taking a step back. Number 4, what makes a difference for people many times is the story that they tell themselves. That kind of self-talk, the compassion that you have for yourself, that has a huge impact on your self-care. It's all part of cognitive behavior therapy. And altruism, basically getting outside of yourself, volunteering, helping somebody else, focusing your attention and getting out of, at least what I need to do is kind of get out of my own head and kind of, again, focus on someone else. And that can also be a great self-care tool and ways of reducing stress. Again, famous quote, many people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. And so I provide you with this slide as a way of saying, what is your plan? And I saw one of your coping strategies of making a list, which is great. And you can do that on a daily basis. And you may want to divide your list into these different areas over here on the right-hand side. Again, your overall, here's what I want to accomplish, definitely in the long run. And you can also break that down into the short run just for today. But again, we want to look at all these parts of yourself and how do you integrate that? Many times we think about just our body, the physical health, but we also have to think about our mental health. And there's also our spiritual health. Those are all dimensions of our wellness. So this is just one tool of many, but I wanted to say part of your self-care strategy would be to get a plan and have that written down in whatever kind of format is most helpful for you. So relaxation. There's a variety of options for relaxation. It's already been mentioned around like getting plenty of sleep. But I want to go ahead and step you through kind of a breathing exercise and some other kinds of strategies that you can use. So using the chat, how many people have heard of square breathing? Or can anyone tell me what square breathing is? Never heard of it? Okay, appreciate that. That's helpful. So square breathing, it's like box breathing. Yes, thank you, Helen. That's exactly right. So the box breathing is basically not square breathing, but deep breathing. Yes, and so this is a kind of a deep breathing type of strategy that I found to be helpful. You can do it right now. You can do it in the car. You can do it at any time. But basically you are breathing in up one side of the box, holding the breath and moving to the other side of the box, then slowly decreasing the breath and going out, and then preparing to take the next breath. So you're just kind of breathing in. Some box breathing there, we're talking like breathe in for like 4 seconds and then hold it for 4 seconds or 3 seconds or 2 seconds. I found myself having a hard time holding my breath. So if you're not used to breathing, you may want to do it for a shorter amount of time. So why don't we just practice together? We'll do it a couple of times. And again, this will be a skill that you can take with you. And again, these things do take practice. So so step 1 is breathing in for the count of, I'll do 4. So I'm breathing in, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm holding it here for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm breathing out for a count of 4. Then I'm staying at the bottom here just for a count of 4. And then I'm repeating my box or my square again by breathing in for a count of 4. And then I'm holding it for 4. And I'm breathing out for 4. I'm staying at the bottom for 4. And then I'm going in again for 4. So you're going to see I'm going in. It's a count of 4. I'm using the 4 count for the breathing in. I'm holding it for the count of 4 going across the top. I'm exhaling then for a count of 4 going down. And then I'm holding it at the bottom at the exhale for a count of 4. So there's a variety of strategies. One is that you can try to increase or decrease that number. So if 4 is too much, just go to 1. Just go to 2. The point is just start wherever you feel comfortable. Some people would also encourage you to also kind of do diaphragmatic breathing. In other words, being able to breathe from your stomach and being very much aware of your breath. I find myself calming down even when I just start talking about breathing. And so it's one of those things when I talked about like keep it basic, we're just kind of getting back to the basics of breathing. And this is all also within the concepts of mindfulness. I'm going to go ahead and insert a video now. And another strategy here around using some humor. So let's go. All right. It takes me just a moment here as I do some transition.
Last time you had a really good laugh. Same sea of blank faces I see from coast to coast. We're gonna do a little research because boy, NACU's all about research and education. And so what we're gonna do here is on the count of 3, if you're physically able, I'll ask you to stand. If not, do this from a seated position. But on the count of 3, stand, and then facing me, I want you to just take a deep breath. And then I want you to put the shape of a smile on your face. For the purpose of this research, this does not have to be a real smile, okay?
So we're going to do this with the video. So audience participation is encouraged if you feel comfortable doing that.
I will give you one last set of instructions and then you can sit down and groan loudly and we will give you the reasons for this research. All right, count of 3. 1, 2, 3, stand. Take a deep breath. Now put the shape of a smile on your face. And I need to see teeth. I don't care if they're yours, okay? Now, last set of instructions. Turn and make eye contact with a victim to your left or right. And now sit down groaning loudly. This is great. This is great. All right, 2 things here. 1, now everybody has a tool. If you had to leave right this minute, and please don't, but if you had to leave right now, you would have a tool. The next time you go back to work and you're sitting at your desk and you think if one more person puts one more thing on my desk, I'm going to have to snatch them bald-headed. Now all you have to do is facing your entryway, doorway, or hallway, sitting or standing, just do this. Because the next person to walk in and see you looking like this, they're going to know that now is not the time to bother you. You can play with your pain. You can be intentional. Doing little exercises. Here's another one that you may have known, you just forgot you knew it. Hold out your right thumb, forefinger about 1 inch apart. Close your left eye. Now find someone's head across the room. bring your thumb and forefinger together and squish. They don't even know they were hit. Oh. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Okay. So lots of good information there. Anything you want to put in the chat or shout out? Love it. Yeah, so finding a lighter side of yourself. Taking your job seriously, but taking yourself not so seriously, and always trying to find some humor, sometimes easier said than done. There's one type of therapy is around being able to laugh about a situation. So think about the last moment that you were in the situation. I might end up unemployed. Yeah, so we don't want to do that. That would just add more stress. But again, using the humor where you can and knowing the context of that and knowing when to use humor and when not to is another skill. So think about, again, the last situation that you might have been in that was embarrassing or upsetting. And so you did not see any humor in it, but how long did it take after that event for you to be able to laugh at yourself? You know, when you put your foot in your mouth or you said something or did something, it's like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And then finally, you know, like when you got to the car or you got to yourself, you were able to laugh. So laughter is the best medicine. Thank you. And the sooner you can laugh at yourself, that's part of that compassion for yourself and giving yourself a break. Sometimes people will laugh at you right away, right? They those people, they'll laugh at you like right sometimes immediately, and it's not funny, at least in the moment. But again, the closer that we can move that, sometimes it can take days, weeks, or months, years, or never, when people can actually ever find any humor in situations. And of course, in some situations, you know, it's not funny. So again, context is all important, and we have lots of skills that we want to be able to use at the time. And again, it's going to take some practice. Laugh all the time without a reason. That's my therapy. Absolutely. All right, good. Appreciate the chat there. Okay, it's going to go. So that hold one moment. Yeah, so hopefully you can see, again, the cat relaxing. And I always wonder, why do cats lay in that position? I mean, it's just like, they just don't really care. They just really, it's about being relaxed and being themselves. So lots of options here for relaxing. So looking at this list here, again, I'm going to pull up see the chat over here is please tell me which one of these things works best for you, or which one is more of a challenge for you. Thank you. I'm going to go with Lee's answer because it's the same as mine. The me time, again, taking care of our family and those people that are closest to us always can be a challenge. Other people are saying the me time too. Again, we are caregivers. I think that's part of being in human services and being care managers, is that we are managing and addressing the care of others. And so carving out that time, we end up, at least for myself, sometimes I'll put that at the bottom of the list. Or again, this is part about saying, you know, my needs are important too. And that is also part of setting those boundaries. And you're right, the procrastination, putting off the me time, that's one thing that we might end up procrastinating about. And that's all about, you're right, about setting the boundaries in the beginning. Start out like you can hold out. Start out like you can hold out. Excellent. So this is these are statements that are positive self-talk. These were actually issued by the Queen of England during war times around the keep calm, as they were trying to appeal to the nation to remain calm. And then it tells you what to do next. And these are kind of those kinds of mantras that you may tell yourself. It could also be scripture from the Bible or other kinds of positive statements that you have that work for you. You may have, these are slogans. They are on t-shirts, they are on posters, or maybe on a plaque or in your home. But it can be difficult to keep perspective. Perspective is so important when it comes to stress, because what is stressful for you is based on your perspective to cope. If you feel like you can cope with it, you can deal with it, your perspective, then it probably is going to be less stressful for you. But if you feel like you cannot deal with that, and your perspective is that you cannot cope with it, it's overwhelming the resources that you have, then that's going to increase the amount of stress. So as you are standing in line these holiday season, whether it be at Food Lion or at Belk's or someplace else, opportunities and things that you can do while you're standing in line. One is to practice that square breathing, right? Or other kinds of deep breathing. Number two would be pick out things in the room and focus and count the number of things that are the color green. Count the number of items that are the color of brown. So again, these are kind of distractions. Many people just distract themselves with the phone. And you can definitely do that. And there's a variety of items on the phone, like playing games on phone, that can be distracting. That can also be helpful. Some ways of, again, distraction can be also, that's kind of a skill. Another one is around just kind of grounding yourself in the present moment, being fully mindful of the floor underneath you. If you're sitting, the chair that you're sitting in, what are you, again, grounding is around paying attention to your five senses and kind of being fully aware of that fully moment, because we're not always noticing. This happens a lot when we eat. We're just so busy consuming that we may not be enjoying, or we're eating and talking at the same time. And so we're just, again, or eating on the run. So we're just kind of shoveling it in. So these are, again, all opportunities to kind of keep that perspective. So I really like this, and I was just talking about grounding, and this is a way of dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is related to fear. Fear, F-E-A-R, could be an acronym for false evidence appearing real. So many times, again, that can be the story that we're telling ourselves that is not based on what is true. So these are 6 different strategies here for grounding, related to your body, related to the 5 senses. Although and part of it, self-soothing, is something that we may have learned from our parents as part of that nurturing. How do you nurture yourself? And it gives you a list of those things. Observing, that's just where you're kind of just observing, you're just noticing, you're not judging, you're just being fully present in the moment. And that's the other part of that grounding. And also over on the right-hand side with the meditation and the square breathing is just noticing, being in the present moment. While we're standing in line, our mind might run to the past, or it may run to the future. As humans, we have that ability, which is a gift. And anytime that ability is overused, it creates stress. Because we can catastrophize about things for the future. So I want you to encourage you to spend time with loved ones. Oh, here's my loved one. So spending time with those pets and having a sense of connection. That's one of the best parts of working from home, is being connected to things that we care about and being in a familiar environment. They're small things. I don't know about you. How many people like the movie Elf? He's like a big kid, isn't he? I think they made my sweater today. But this is again a way of taking yourself less seriously while still taking your job very seriously. And we're going to do some exercises also around around gratitude, because that is another definitely an important skill. So gratitude, it's again, how do we be grateful and mindful of the small things? And many people, if you're part of Alcoholics Anonymous or other groups, even in the church, they'll talk about, you know, a prayer of thankfulness, a gratitude, being grateful for the food that is before us. And again, kind of breaking it down, making a list, and kind of having that be your focus. If you're like me, sometimes we end up focusing on what we don't have, and yet we have so much. And so gratitude is another part of that kind of self-care module. So here's also a mindfulness practice. Hopefully this will can take you out here to a website. Are you able to see this mindful 5-minute gratitude exercise? I see heads nodding yes. Okay, very good. So want to take a moment to engage in this. So this article is available to you also. There is nothing particularly special going on, but I noticed that being grateful for little things was already lifting my dark thoughts. So there's a podcast here that you can also use here also. And then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of step us through these steps here. You're welcome to read along on the screen. You're welcome to kind of turn your camera off if you want, or you can also read along with us. I see the slide, but not the site. Okay, very helpful. Thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I will go to here. Can you see the article now?
Yes, I see.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to step through this together. One way in which you can do this exercise is to close your eyes or turn your cameras off, kind of sit back and take some deep breath. But I'm going to kind of read this through, and you can also use this as a tool to read to yourself. You can also memorize it and then use it on a regular basis. So let's begin. Use your breath to anchor yourself in the present moment. Our minds are always so easily pulled to busyness. Bringing particular attention to your breath or something in your body as you bring your shoulders down and orient your attention towards gratitude. Bring your mind a sight to you of things that you are grateful for. Move through your senses and find one thing to start with that you appreciate that comes up for you or to you in your world of sight. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a shadow, maybe it's a shape or a movement. It will never be like this again. So what do you see right now? And can you feel grateful for this, whatever it is? Shift to a scent that you appreciate. As you continue your work with senses, now take time to be tuned in to your appreciation to an aroma. What do you notice? What about that glorious or interesting or subtle smell is making you smile? It could be a gratitude for something familiar, a scent of something that brings comfort, upliftment, or maybe it's something you've smelled before. Or maybe it just piques your curiosity, ignites you, and enlivens you. Tune in to any sound that you have right now. Allow the world of smell to gently recede into the background on an in-breath, and then shift your attention to your ears and the world of sound. Maybe noticing what it feels like to really listen. How many sounds can you notice? And can you feel grateful for that as you're experiencing the sound where you are right now? What can you notice about these sounds? Are they far away? Are they close? Perhaps you can play a piece of music that brings you joy, or have gratitude that it's so available. Or maybe it's the sound of children laughing, or a sound of a loved one's breathing, or the sound of the beating of your own heart. The world of texture and touch beckons us next. We find so much to be grateful for in touch. If there's someone near you, you could give them a hug, or they can hug you. Notice how this makes you feel with gratitude for the joy of human contact. Or perhaps you have a beautiful pet that you can stroke or cuddle, or some lovely material with a texture that's soft. Let your senses ignite your gratitude. There's so much to be appreciative of. Shift your notice now to noticing and appreciating objects. Take a minute to look up, look down, look from side to side. Appreciate how much effort must have gone into anything that you own or use. Someone conceived of the need, and many people worked on the details of that design. Much care even went into packaging it to deliver it to you safely. What do you feel when you let yourself be grateful for all the talent that went into making your life a little easier? At the end of this practice, carry this attitude with you. One last little grateful tip. Why not offer your thanks to each person who does something at all for you today? Even if it's their job to help you. When you're grateful, when you let your heart open up, and when you feel with appreciation, notice how grateful you feel. So as we close with gratitude, I'm grateful that you tuned in to this gratitude practice. I appreciate your time, your effort, and your energy to be present, awake, and alive in your precious life, and have a beautiful day. So the presentation is not over, so don't go anywhere. But this was, again, a practice. And things do take practice. And so it is a matter of making a shift to looking at all of these different parts of yourself. I'd like to do another activity for you, or with you, and it's going to require that you have something soft. I'm going like this because it's actually usually done with a Hershey Kiss, like piece of candy, like a soft piece of chocolate. So if you have a soft piece of chocolate, that would work. But really, any small item that you can use and that you could eat or have present with you will work. So I'm going to go get mine, and I want to encourage you to go get yours. And if you don't have one, it's okay. And you can just practice along for the next time. So ready, set, and go. I found a small piece of cookie. So again, hopefully you're able to find something small and soft that you can use. Again, the exercise that I'm going to share with you is going to focus on a Hershey's Kiss, but you can apply the same strategies to whatever the item is that you have. And again, this is kind of a focus of mindfulness. Are you able to see clear view treatment programs? Can you see that?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
see.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go.
And I want you to try and focus on your breath throughout the whole time, which won't be too long, to try to stay centered in the moment. So if you can open your hand and just look at the Hershey Kiss in the wrapper and just notice and acknowledge without judgment to yourself just the facts of what you see, as if you've never seen a Hershey Kiss before. Also maybe noticing the weight of it in your hand, using your fingers as well now to kind of touch the paper. And now if you can begin to unwrap the Hershey Kiss. And again, trying to stay focused with your breathing. And if any thoughts about anything other than the Hershey Kiss come into your mind, please just notice and acknowledge them and return your thoughts back to the chocolate. And once you have it unwrapped, again, just kind of holding in your hands, looking at the shape, the color, the texture, feeling the texture of the chocolate in your hand. And if you're having any urges to just pop it in your mouth, notice that as well, without judgment. When you're ready, put the Hershey Kiss in your mouth, but don't chew. So just put it on your tongue and just move it around your mouth and notice how it tastes. Notice how it changes shape, or texture, or temperature. And just acknowledging it. And again, noticing any urges to bite down. Okay, and you are free to chew. Please chew slowly. And again, noticing any changes in the chocolate, how it tastes, the texture. And then you can swallow as well when you're ready. Great. Thank you for your attention and for mindfully eating with me.
Okay, using the chat or shout out, any thoughts that you had about that process? This is actually one of the strategies that's used in Weight Watchers, where you basically take a spoonful of food and then you put your knife or fork down and really take time to fully chew and enjoy what's in your mouth. And so it's really about one of these self-care processes is really slowing down the process. And so one of the challenges is that it was, I found it very hard to focus at first, but it got easier as the exercise continued. Yeah, it can be painfully slow. In fact, my mouth was already watering as I was kind of holding, if it's a Hershey's Kiss or I was using a cookie and kind of just acknowledge, watching it and looking at it, my mouth, it starts getting ready. We're already kind of gearing ourselves up for the next step, focusing on one thing at a time. Actually, that's right. And that's one way of being really effective in your job, is being fully present for the people that you're serving. Many times, again, if you're already worrying about the next appointment or what's going to happen at 5 o'clock, or maybe what had happened in the days past, again, just being fully present with this person, giving them a 100% of your time and your attention, and truly listening, and again, people being heard, is a true gift, and also will helps you to kind of stay more centered and focused and have your best service, best performance, and also we're feeling less rushed, because we're sitting there as I'm talking with somebody and I'm worrying about what again I'm going to do next. That just adds to, again, the time pressure. One moment while I get to sharing to the correct screen. And I want to go here. All right, excellent. So many times, again, this is feeling like an elephant, and how are we going to be able to, again, eat one bite, one step at a time. Part of breaking through the barriers many times is kind of the self-talk. And also that might get in the way, that creates the procrastination, or looking at, again, whatever is a barrier for you. Adding more skills to your set can also help. Something that breaks through the barriers may also be important to kind of look at what is creating barriers for you. If you're seeing a pattern or a trend, how can you step through with that? So overall, I mean, the benefits of this stress management or of self-care is around your own physical health and putting yourself first and creating that me time. It's about establishing the emotional stability that, again, happens through the positive thoughts, the compassion that you're having for yourself, just as you have compassion for others, and the ability to focus. So this is, again, is about your mind, body, emotions, and the whole person. Again, trying to carve out and definitely figuring out. And again, you may just want to start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes, 30 minutes, one class. Again, it's just like figuring out what is going to work for you. And so this cartoon is, it's funny, hopefully, but it's also true. You know, what fits better into your schedule? Exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? Again, stress does kill people, and it does have a negative impact on people's overall well-being. And so it is just as essential as your self-care is just as essential as the sleeping, eating, or exercise. And again, there's a variety of different ways in which you can figure out which one of these strategies is going to work best for you. All right, so being mindful of time, I think we have about 15-20 minutes left here. Wanted to kind of transition into a next section, which is really kind of focusing on resiliency. But also wanted to stop and see if there's any other questions or thoughts before I move into the next section. Okay, so what we definitely come back, or you can add in as we go along. So using the chat, can you please put in what is your definition of resiliency? What is resiliency? Bouncing back, absolutely. You're exactly correct. So many times life is a bumpy road, at least my life is, and if we hit a bump and we get knocked down, how much cushion do we have around us? Definitely the bouncing back part. Any additional thoughts? Having hope. Absolutely. So it's great to see Malcolm on the in the meeting today, another Alliance resource for you. And so having hope is definitely part of the recovery process, and resiliency is one factor of several that's within recovery, and also hope. Remembering your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. Absolutely. We can lose sight of that. We get lost. Again, we can't see the forest for the trees. Again, we kind of not able to see the full horizon, and kind of lose that. And that's part of being stressed out, is that cynicism or losing perspective, which is all part of that coping. Excellent. Very good. So here's definitely a definition for you. There are many factors that influence our ability to have resiliency. On hand, when you're facing some sort of adversity or a challenging situation, just because we don't have these factors in place doesn't mean we cannot build them for ourselves and for those around us. So this is something that you can definitely learn over time, and hopefully many of us, and you can see that definition of bouncing back was also already there. Great. So there are many paths to recovery and many paths to building resiliency. And so this is ways in which we can do it for children. You can also do it for everyone, and you can also do it for adults. So let me start on the adult side. In each of my presentations, I think that it's important for us to talk about trauma. I see trauma as being an issue that impacts mental health and also the development of mental health conditions. So being trauma informed is very important. As the people that we're working with, it's not, while it's important as to what's going on now, it's also important to understand maybe what happened to them and also what happened to us. How does our own personal trauma, and I want to emphasize that trauma and COVID is occurring. So many times it becomes very routine that we've been in a pandemic for so long, and we sometimes might forget that this has been a traumatic event, and that we are learning how to deal with that and how to cope with that on a regular basis. Also paying attention on the resiliency of your identifying your own emotional triggers. That's why I asked you about what were your hot buttons. What are the things that set you off? So you want to be aware of them so that you can deal with them. When we're not aware of them, those are the things that can catch us off guard or can really kind of zap our energy. So building up this resiliency, and you can see for everyone, you can see over in the second line there, gratitude is on that list. Exercise, lots of things that we've already been talking about. Laughing today, hope was just mentioned in the chat. Volunteering, I mean, all of these things again are repeated throughout the training under self-care, because they're things that can build that kind of cushion around you to deal with the stress. There's a variety of ways in which you can also build stress, and where can I get some resiliency? So this is really based on what's called the stress vulnerability model. And the best analogy of that would be related to the pipes in your home, especially as we're here entering the winter months. So think about resiliency as the cushion around those pipes. And housing, I know you all can relate to that. So, you know, somehow some homes, the wrapping around that pipe, wrapped pipes has worn down over time. Some homes somehow don't have those things, but the stress of the cold then has an impact on whether those pipes freeze or not. And so some people are just not born with resiliency. It's a genetic, it's just not born that way, whether it's nature or nurture. They don't have, or they never develop the resiliency or the cushion around their pipes that block out that stress. And so they become more susceptible or more reactive to stress than others. So I want to make sure that your pipes are wrapped well, and that you have lots of these protective factors that will deal with that kind of stress. And anytime there's a breakdown, and sometimes we have to rewrap the pipes or change it out, and again develop new skills. So that's kind of where can I get some resiliency? Either you were born that way, or something that you can develop over time. Also, another way of looking at this is around another article about why some children are orchids and others are dandelions. Many children are able to thrive in an environment, while others may flourish under the most favorable conditions. New findings have found the interplay of factors that create individuals. So we're just different, and we're all reacting differently to the stress that is around us. And so I'll let you read the article on your own, but there is, again, ways in which your brain kind of reacts to the stress of the environment. And as we know, orchids are very fragile and take a lot of specific temperature and light and water and the right combination, or they will perish, versus dandelions. I don't even have to try, right? They just come up, and they can be scorching hot in the middle of the sun with no water, and they seem to thrive quite well. So again, just kind of looking at what each individual is bringing to the table is important. I just want to do a check of time. Yeah, there's one more video that I'd like to share with you as we move through as far as talking about the stress. So Malcolm shared with the group, I like learning that most important factor in resiliency is the quality of our relationships. I relate often to resiliency as an individual skill, but it is cultivated collaboratively with people you trust. Excellent. Yeah, so really relationships and that social support that we were talking about earlier is a huge factor in building that resiliency. Because again, not any one of us has all of the resources that we would need for ourselves or for others. We're made to be connected to others, and that's part of what has made COVID challenging. Excellent. Thank you, Malcolm. So I'd like to share with you one more video that will kind of give you another, some additional thoughts about how we manage stress. Go through the ad here.
What's up, guys? Robbie here. If you want to learn how to make $1,000 a day online.
The idea of the stress.
Okay, can you see a bucket?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, here we go.
Stress bucket has been around in psychology for some time. Here is the story of the stress bucket. We're all born being a different sized bucket. The bucket is our capacity to cope with stressful life events. There's not much you can do about what sized bucket you are. We all live under leaky stress taps. The water that drips into the bucket represents our stressful life events. Many stressful life events are not within our control. All of our buckets have drain holes. This is good, as they release the stress we experience. If we have good strategies for releasing stress, our buckets won't overflow. But sometimes our coping strategies can't keep up with the stress we are living under. And sometimes we abandon our coping strategies when we need them the most, such as cancelling social events because we're feeling too busy and stressed at work. A full and overflowing bucket is where stress has reached unhelpful levels and mental health conditions may emerge. A bucket where the stress remains safely inside is one where stress is in check and is likely helping with productivity.
Okay. So using that analogy, we want to look at one, what is the size of your bucket? We're not all made the same. Number two, the amount of water, the amount of stress that's coming out of that faucet. Many people, I've heard them say, I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose. How much water? And again, your flow of water or stressors, again, is inconsistent, right? Sometimes it's like, feel like it's really flowing a lot, and sometimes it's less, especially this time of the year. Seems like there's more things flowing because there's added things to do around holidays, celebrations. And then thirdly, hopefully today, as a result of our time spent together and looking at your self coping strategies and ways in which you can start practicing getting some new skills or refreshing some old skills, we want to look at what are those kind of holes in the bucket. Sometimes, you know, that the idea of having a hole in the bucket is not a positive thing, but actually in this model, we need to have holes in the bucket. And those are the skills that you learn today that are, again, are allowing the water just to kind of flow through so that your bucket does not overflow. And when you stop, like I'll use the me time as an example, maybe that's something that you practice and you got it in check. And so water kind of flows out because you have enough me time. So I get recharged so I can handle the water coming in because I'm allowing stuff to flow out because I'm taking care of me. If I stop taking care of me, and let's say I don't do my me time for a while, that creates a plug in that bucket. And so then the water or the pressure of that water builds and will start overflowing because I have not taken care of me. Another easy example might be also around sleep. Like if I'm not sleeping well, that could also be something that might plug that hole. And so you, again, think about, this would be another opportunity for you to think about what are some of your holes, what are some of your self-care strategies that might have been plugged recently or have not been used in a while. And so how can we start kind of opening that up so that we can allow more of that stress so that our bucket is not feeling so full or so it doesn't overflow. Another chat here is about medium bucket overflowing, about to add a few more holes today. Excellent. So adding holes in this situation is a helpful thing. I've really enjoyed our time together today. I hope that you found some tips and some skills and conversation and support and relationships and connection that has been helpful for you. Alliance Health is here for you and for your organization, both at work or in the community of Durham. We want to work collaboratively with everyone. I'm going to stick around here. Or if you have additional questions or thoughts that you would like to share now, then we definitely would like to entertain that. And again, I really am grateful for your time and your attention. And I'm wishing you all the best in this holiday season and as we move into the new year together.
Thank you so much, James. Appreciate you and all that you shared with us. And folks want to hang out, have any questions for James, we can let that happen for a few minutes. And otherwise, enjoy your weekend and a very happy holidays to all of you if we don't see you before the new year. Thank you, James.
You're most welcome. My pleasure.
All right, looks like everybody's heading out. So I guess you're off the hook, James. You did such a good job. No questions. Everybody's got it mastered.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.